أشهد أن محمد رسول الله.
Right? I'd say the first thing I stopped doing is I stopped eating pork. As a child, I never liked eating pork. I don't like pork. I remember in Ukraine, pork is like the primary dish. It's in so many things. It's ridiculous. And I always hated it. And adults would try to like make me eat it, and I just hated it. So I had this vivid memory. So the first thing I started doing, I was like, okay, I'm gonna give up pork. No more bacon. I can do it. And I never went back. Or I converted for 2 years. I haven't been eating pork. Yeah, I was like, yeah, no, it's gross. I think even if I would not have converted to Islam, I probably just would never eat pork again, because yeah, no, I'm good. You know, I just, of course, started meeting people. I went to the mosque several times. I just wanted to know all the details I can get. All the rules, all the cultural versus religious stuff, because culture is here, religion is here. You know, sometimes they don't correlate whatsoever. I think that's an important note. Everybody should know. But yeah, I was so interested and so motivated that honestly, I think I started believing after I read that book. Right after I started reading the Quran, after I started looking into it, I already had that belief. I just haven't taken my Shahada yet, which is, Shahada is when you essentially say, I accept the Prophet Muhammad as the Prophet and Allah is the only God, right? I think I could have mixed it up, but I'll tell you how I got to it. So, but of course it was a big decision in my life, right? And I didn't want to rush it. And you know, at some point I was talking to a friend of mine who's Muslim, and I told him all this stuff. I asked him all these questions, and I was like, yeah, I don't know when it's gonna happen for me, like. And he looked at me and said, you already believe it, why not just take the Shahada? And I was like, what? And he said, you're essentially just postponing the moment of taking the responsibility of being Muslim, right? You already believe in it. You already do. You will never be perfect. And this was my biggest thing. I was so afraid, because when I would have converted, I wanted to be perfect. It was so important to me to be a perfect Muslim, right? I wanted to be I wanted to do everything right, you know. I wanted to make sure I'm not gonna, you know, commit any more mistakes and all those things. That's why I kept postponing it, because I didn't want to make mistakes. But I was making a mistake by believing and not converting. So I took my Shahada that evening. I did. It was the best thing in the world. I still could not believe, like, I remember when I took my Shahada, it was the craziest thing ever. You guys will think it's unreal, but I remember I had to Google it, right? Thank God for the technology. So I Googled, like, what do you do? What do you say? Right? And all you do is just say it. It's insane. Like, all you do is just say it. And I said it, and I remember the feeling of complete peacefulness and happiness, and I almost felt like so welcomed. I felt welcomed into a family. This is what I felt like after I said my Shahada. Of course, it was a very, very emotional moment, and you know, for the first week or two, I haven't told anyone I converted. I just was praying in my room. I didn't tell anyone I converted. It was the happiest time ever, because it was just me along with God, being happy, being Muslim, being happy that I am Muslim, and that is all that matters. I knew I would face, some people would be happy for me, like my friends were very happy. They knew I was looking into it for a while, so of course they were so happy for me. Others were confused. I cannot tell you how many friends or acquaintances essentially I lost because I told them I converted to Islam. And I'm glad I lost them because they're not, they're not meant to be in my life if they cannot accept who I am. So this is my story of, converting to Islam, and it was still to this day probably the most magical moment in my life, the best decision I've ever made. Yeah, I knew it's the right thing, and I never had doubts again. So there's so much controversy around each religion, each one of them, not just Islam, all of them. Do what works best for you. Do your research, talk to people, read the books, see what works for you and see what feels right. Only you know the answer to that question, whatever works for you. I know I can make so many more videos. I actually have some ideas, like what things I started doing after I converted, what things I stopped doing. I think one of the hardest questions was losing friends over it, but they're not my friends. If they couldn't accept who I became and my decision. So I think that's an important thing to discuss, because your life will change, but it will change for the better whenever you really embrace who you are and find the religion you feel comfortable in. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I believe I said everything I wanted to say. It's very interesting. Like, I still cannot believe my life turned this way. If I would have told myself when I was little that I would convert to Islam, I would probably be very, like, if somebody would have told me that, I'd be really confused. I hope you learned something. This is a big deal for me to be making this video. I hope you, leave your stories down below. If you are a convert to Islam or to any other religion, please comment down below. Tell me about your story, your transition. Just a couple of sentences, because I do want to know. I read all of your guys' comments, and it makes my day. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you.